Hello, everybody. We are in November, which is just nuts, right? Our new lesson, our next lesson is on side, 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 and side angle, side congruence. Your notes should look like the screen right here. I'm going to move on to the doc cam right now. Okay, so here we go, folks. So up until today, we know that in order for two triangles to be congruent, what must be true? Well, we know that they have to have three pairs of congruent sides and three pairs of congruent angles. So if we look here, I want to use black. I want to use a colorful color like purple so it stands out. Okay, so if we look here, we see that US is 8.1 and KM is 1.1. And then we notice that ST is 8.4 and LK is 8.4. And then we also notice, hold on, you guys, I just don't understand sometimes. Is that helping? It's just so light. Oh, there we go. All right. Lastly, we notice that UT is 7.9 and so is LM. So we have our three pairs of congruent sides. Yes, we do. So far, so good. Now let's check. Do we have three pairs of congruent angles? Well, we see that we have angle T is congruent to angle L with 47 degrees. But now I have a 77 and a 56. Well, clearly we know those don't match. However, I'm missing an angle in both of these triangles. And indeed, if we do subtract 77 and 47 from our triangle, we find that this angle is 56. And then we do have a pair of matching angles, M and U. And this one we find is 77. And K is congruent to S. So long story short, right, we had to go through a lot of work to show that these two triangles were congruent. So now from like here on out, we're going to learn some shortcuts so you don't have to show that all six of those pieces are congruent. Okay, you with me? So our first shortcut is side, side, side. Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. So if we have two triangles and three sides of one triangle are congruent to three sides of another triangle, then those triangles are congruent. So we don't even have to care about what their angle measures are, because if we have three pairs of congruent sides, then automatically those triangles are congruent. So let's look here. We're going to list our sides that are congruent. So I have one tick mark. Remember, your tick marks match. So AB is congruent. Now I find my other tick mark, DE. Okay, that was pretty good. Now let's move on to our two tick marks. I'll box this one. So BC is congruent to EF. And then our last one will go with the threes. I'll put a star by those guys so we know that those match. AC is congruent to DF. So this is enough information to say that these two triangles are congruent. So now we can write a congruency statement. So we can say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle. Now you got to match, so just make sure you pick the right order. I was pretty unoriginal and I just started with ABC. So now I'm going to go DEF. Remember, those corresponding parts have to match, otherwise it's not valid. Okay, so side, side, side is when you have three pairs of congruent sides to your two triangles. Now, a little different. We have side, angle, side. This one's just a little trickier. It's not quite as obvious, but let's read through it here. It says, if two sides and the included, will you guys circle, highlight, mark that somehow? So if two sides and the included angle of one triangle is congruent to two sides and the included angle of the other triangle, then those two triangles are congruent. So again, we have to have two sides and then the included angle. So if you don't know what included means, that's okay. Look down here. It says included means the angle between the two sides. So we need the angle that's between the two sides that are congruent. So it's going to look like this. So let's see what this looks like, okay? So again, we're going to match. So I have my one tick mark. AB is congruent to side DE. So that's my one pair of sides. Now it wants us to list the angle, okay? So now we match our archy mark. So angle B here, I'll box that. Angle B is congruent to angle E. Again, they have those one archy marks telling us that those angles are congruent. And then our last side has a two tick mark, so BC is congruent to EF. So now that these two triangles are congruent by side, angle, side. They had two pairs of sides that are congruent, and then their included angle was also congruent. So now we can say triangle ABC, and again we have to match. What matches A? Well, D does, B and E go together, and C and F. Soon you guys will be able just to look at pictures and be like, oh, that's side, 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 that's side, angle, side. It's going to be very intuitive for you, but we just kind of have to get there, okay? So these next few examples, we're just given pairs of triangles, and our job is to figure out, are they congruent by side, 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 or side, angle, side, or maybe neither, like maybe we don't have enough information, okay? And if it is congruent, then we are going to write a congruency statement, okay? So let's look here. We notice I have one tick mark and one tick mark, so I'm going to write a side. And then I have an archy mark and an archy mark, so angle. And then I have two tick marks and two tick marks. So this right here would be a side, angle, side congruency. You guys see that? I have a side, angle, side on both of them, and they match. So we can say yes, side, angle, side, and now we list what the congruent triangles are. So I could say triangle, let's see here, QYT is congruent to triangle. Now what matches Q? Well, Q matches C, Y matches K, and T matches P. There we are. Okay, here we go. Now this one's a little different here. We do have two different triangles. Do you guys see that? We have triangle ADC, and then they share this side, AC, so there is another triangle over here. It's ACB. Okay, so now if we go around and look, I have one tick mark, so that's a side, and that matches BC over here. And then I have two tick marks that matches AB over here, but that's all I have. So now you're wondering, well, based on what Miss Bundy said, if there might not be enough information. You're right, I did say that. However, do you guys see how AC is in both triangles? It's on the one on the left and on the one on the right. So it can be congruent to itself. Like if you look in the mirror, you're congruent to yourself, right? You're exactly the same thing you're looking at. That's what's happening here. We call that the reflexive property. So this would actually be a side, side, side congruent. So we're going to say yes, side, 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 and then we can list our triangle congruents. So we can say triangle ACD is congruent to triangle. So now it's kind of tricky. You kind of have to look. So A on this left triangle was between the one tick mark and the three tick mark side. Now what letter does that correspond to? Well, that'd be C because it's between the one and the three tick marks. So we're going to say CAB. You're just matching, folks. Don't overcomplicate it. Just play the matching game, right? Okay. Our next one here. You zoom in maybe a bit. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, yeah. Way better. Okay. Here we go. So now we have, again, let's match what we have. We have one tick mark, so that's a side. I have an archy mark and an archy mark, so that's an angle. And then I have another two tick marks over here that matches those tick marks. So I do have two sides and an angle. However, if you go around, we have SSA. Is that side, 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 or side angle side? No. If you go this way, you have ASS. First off, that's really not a school appropriate word, so we know it doesn't work. And it doesn't follow side, 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 or side angle side. So actually, this one's not enough info. That's how I'm going to abbreviate it, NEI. And the reason for that, folks, is because we needed it to be this angle right here and this angle right there. Because this is not the included angle. They're trying to trick us here. So hopefully you didn't fall for that. We need it to be the included angle. And this is just another angle, okay? So not enough information because we just don't have enough right now. Later, we'll be able to tell some other things in the week, but as of today, not enough information. Okay, and then our last one like this. Again, we're going to go around and see what we have. I have 1 tick mark and 1 tick mark, so that's a side. 2 tick marks and 2 tick marks, so that's another side. And that's all they have marked for us. So now we either have to think, do we know anything else by just looking at this picture? Do they share anything? Do we have previous knowledge we can fall back on? And hopefully you're thinking, I do. You guys are pretty smart kids. You guys do know a lot. We have vertical angles in there, right? So this angle here is congruent to that angle there. So now you have side, angle, side. So we're going to say yes, side, angle, side. And now we can list our triangle congruencies. So I can say triangle BCA is congruent to triangle. So now B was the smaller one, so DCE. Oops, I can't see that. There you go. We're gonna practice a lot together with these, so don't freak out if you're totally lost. This is hard, it's new, and kind of like something way different than we've been doing, okay? Now, speaking of things that we haven't done yet, usually in a non-COVID year, we would have had a whole unit before this one on how to write a proof. Obviously, we didn't do that because I'm trying to kind of pick and choose what are the most important topics, right? Because that's what's happening this year. So here we are with our first proof, you guys. I'm pretty excited about it. So what is the purpose of a proof? A proof is basically you're doing a problem, but for every step you do, you have to give a reason for why you're doing it. Okay, you can't, it's just like, why did you do what you did? That's all you're doing, okay? So you're just gonna break it down step by step, and then you have to give a reason for it, okay? Okay, so let's see how this goes, folks, all right? So step 1, you're gonna be given free information. That's called your givens. Now with your givens, you have to mark your picture so you know what you're talking about. So this first one says segment KM is congruent to segment NM. So I'm gonna mark that on my picture. And remember, with congruent segments, you put little tick marks. So I have 1 tick mark on KM, and that matches NM. That's perfect, okay? And then we also are told that LK right here is congruent to LN. That's awesome. So I'm gonna put 2 tick marks and 2 tick marks. Okay, so now we kind of have to think, what's our end goal here? Like, what are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to prove that triangle LKM is congruent to triangle LNM. So what we were just doing kind of, but now we're reasoning our way through to explain it to people. So what am I missing? Is this even possible? So again, we marked what we were given, but do we know anything else by just looking at this picture? And we do, right? Do you guys also notice that LM is in both triangles here? So I can put 3 tick marks to show that LM is in both the left and the right triangle. So now, based on this, I have side, 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 which is enough information to prove that triangle LKM is congruent to triangle LNM. Let's see how this works, okay? So what's easy? If you're taking a test or quiz or whatever, and if you have no idea how to solve the proof, you'll always get partial credit for writing down your givens. That's your free information. So that's where you start. So I'm going to start with my first given here. KM is congruent to NM. Why did I write that? Well, that's my reason. It's a given. It's a freebie. Like, thank you, whoever made this problem, for giving me that free information. Okay, so that's one thing. Step 2, write down your other given. So I'm going to have LK is congruent to ln. Why was I able to write that down? Well, I wrote that down because, again, it was a freebie. It's free information. Therefore, it is a given. Okay. So now, if you're in a testing situation or just working on a problem, we know we have one more spot to fill before we get to our end goal. Well, if you want to maybe fill in your end goal, you can. I know that my end goal is to show that these two triangles are congruent. But now we got to figure out what goes in that third step. Well, what did we write on our own? What did we mark without them giving it to us? Remember, we wrote that LM is equal to itself. So LM is congruent to LM. Now, why was I allowed to write that? You were allowed to write that because that's the reflexive property. Think of it like your reflection. It looks like a reflection, but it's the reflexive property here. That's going to be one of your guys' favorite new properties. The reflexive property. So now, why is triangle LKM congruent to triangle LNM? Well, by the side, side, side congruence. Okay, I think this is a good place to stop because I don't really know how we were feeling about this whole proof situation, and I don't really want to do the other proof if we're not really getting this proof. So I think we're going to pump the brakes there. We're going to call it a day. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in class. Have a wonderful rest of your day.